Good evening, and welcome back to our weekly webcast on the Parsha this week and last week, which we missed. So I'll do both, a little bit of both. We began last week the portion of Shemot, the beginning of the book of Exodus, and this week we continue with the portion of Vaerah. And it's really one story. It's the story of the Jewish people's bondage in Egypt, and God appearing to Moses at the burning bush, telling him to become the leader of the Jewish people and lead them out of Egypt and bring them to Mount Sinai. And the story is a long story. It takes about a year, but it begins with Moses meeting God at the burning bush. And at the burning bush, we know that Moses sees the bush burning, and it's not consuming the bush. The fire is not burning up the bush. And he turns to see it, and God appears to him suddenly. It says, Moses, the time has come. I've heard the anguish of the Jewish people in Egypt, and the time has come to fulfill my promise to redeem them from Egypt. Moshe, the Torah tells us, heard this and he was shocked. He told God, "You got to be kidding. I'm not the right guy for this. I don't want to do this. There's got to be some other people that can do this better than me, my brother." All kinds of things he told. He was arguing with God, believe it or not, for an entire week. It says that they argued at the burning bush for a whole week, until God got upset, and he says, "You must go, and there's no more talking, there's no negotiating, you're going." And I'm not going to go through the whole thing because time is short, but I want to now zero in on a few things that the Torah tells us about this encounter. And Rashi, of course, explains to us what happened over there. One of the things that Moshe told God a few reasons why he doesn't think he should go. First of all, he said, the Jews are not going to believe him. I'm going to come to Egypt, a man from nowhere, and say, "We're going out." Who's going to believe me? Yeah, it's like the Rebbe said, Mashiach is coming. No. The Rebbe would call, and he did. He said, Mashiach is about to come, everyone prepare. No? So, is that very convincing? A lot of people heard it. Many Jews know about this call. But, no one's exactly packing their bags, and no one's making plans. They're all, they're all good. They're all happy where they are. How many people believe that Mashiach is coming today or tomorrow? So Moshe tells God, "What are you talking about? I'm going to come there, they're going to laugh at me. He's an old man. He has nothing. He had an illusion. Delusional man. We're going to get out of Egypt. We're here for 100 years already with back-breaking work, tortured. Our children were thrown into the Nile, killed, butchered. And this old man is coming to tell us that we're going. Who's going to believe it?" So what was the answer to that? What did God tell him? So God told him, "Listen, I'm going to give you a number of miraculous signs that you will perform in front of the Jewish people, and they'll be convinced." Okay. So he answered him that question. What was the next thing Moshe told God? "But I don't know how to speak. I stutter, and I have a difficult time of communicating. So even if I would be able to go and I can convince them, but I don't know how to talk." So what did Hashem answer to that question? Anyone?
I'll put Aaron for his mouth for you.
He told him, "Aaron will be your mouthpiece. Don't worry, your brother will go. You'll tell your brother what I told you, and he'll communicate it to Pharaoh, to the Jewish people. There's no problem. He doesn't stutter." Then Moshe comes up with a new answer, a new thing why he can't go. What does he tell him? And I'm going to read this to you right from the text itself. He tells God, after everything, he tells him he makes miracles with him and all that. Moshe says,
he knew he's going to deal with difficult people.
Where is it? see it. Oh. Moshe says to God, but Moshe said, please, my master, send the one shlach no biyad tishlach. Send the one that you usually send. So,
what is this for?
Doesn't literally mean shlach no biyad tishlach. Send with the one that you send. What does that mean if you read it simply? Send with someone else. Why me? All right, you're right. So now I can convince them because I know how to make miracles on your behalf, and I know how, and Aaron will talk for me. But just why me? Just send someone else. Rashi tells us that what he meant was two things. One is, he said, send my brother Aaron. Why send me? And then Aaron should be my mouthpiece. Just talk to him directly. What do I need to be in the middle of it? And by the way, he's older than me anyway. So he's going to be insulted if I become the main emissary and leader, and he's just secondary to me. He's my mouthpiece. I should be his mouthpiece, if anything. He's 3 years older than me. And then Rashi tells us another interpretation. What he meant by send with the one you usually send, he meant Mashiach. He said to God, why are you bothering me to go to Egypt, to take them out of Egypt and bring them to the whole thing, and they're going to go back into exile in a few hundred years? Why? This is a failed mission, he told God. I'm wasting my time, wasting their time. This is a futile experience, just to take them out of jail so that they go right back into jail just a little while later. Just get them out of jail once and for all with the one that is going to get them out once and for all. Which is just who? Mashiach. Now, to this question, to these two questions, we don't find that God answers him. He's right. Aaron is older than him. And is it respectful to choose a younger brother over the older brother? How many problems did we have in the past when they favored younger over older? Joseph and his brothers and all that. So Moshe is saying, what do you do with him? Why it's not even right from a Torah perspective. An older brother should be respected before the younger one. And we don't find in the text over here that God answered him at all for this question. And for the second question either. To send through Mashiach, to bring an end to this nonsense once and for all, to make a one and final redemption, we don't find that God answered him. The other two questions, we do find that God answered. They won't believe me? Yes, they will. You'll make miracles. I stutter, I don't know how to speak. Don't worry, Aaron will do it for you. But the question, let my older brother, who should do it anyway before the younger brother, or let Mashiach altogether do it, we don't find God answering him at all. The very next thing we find is Vayelech Moshe. Moses went, and he went to his father-in-law, to Jethro, and told him, I want to go back to Egypt to be with my brothers and redeem them. What convinced him? What finally did convince him? Those two questions were not answered. So how was he convinced to go? Anyone?
God told him he had to.
He just had to. But God doesn't answer. Moshe asked a good question. And by the way, is there anything wrong with asking questions by God?
No.
Is there? Moshe teaches us that questioning is always a good thing. He doesn't stop questioning. At every step of the way he's questioning. Not challenging, but questioning. At the end of the parasha last week, he tells God, why did you missend me? And I went, and the Vaerah only made it worse for the Jewish people. Now they have to go and collect the materials with which to make the bricks, and they still have to provide the same amount of bricks every day. So they made a job so much more difficult as direct result of my coming and talking about the redemption of the Jewish people. So he challenges God. He went out of Vaerah's court and says to God, what'd you do? Why'd you send me? You only made it worse. So here's a man that does talk to God and does question him, which means that there's nothing wrong with questioning. God welcomes questions. So if you welcome questions, why don't you answer them? He asked you two questions and he didn't answer. The older brother deserves the respect, not me. God's completely silent on this. So the truth is,
enough is enough.
That who is the one that interpreted the verse when Moshe says, please send with someone else? Rashi is the one that steps in and says it means Aaron and it means Mashiach, right? The Torah, the text itself doesn't say that. Rashi interprets from words that it means those two questions. Had Rashi not said anything, we wouldn't have any question. Moshe says, why me send someone else? God said, because I want you to do it. That's a good answer. He tells him, stop it, I chose you and that's it. That would have been a good answer. We wouldn't be bothered anymore. But Rashi tells us that the Moshe was not just looking to get out of this thing, Stamazeh is lazy. He had a legitimate question. His legitimate question was, I am the younger brother. And Aaron will be slighted if I go and he's not. That deserves a real good answer. But Rashi is the one that brings about this question. And the same thing with Mashiach. Therefore, it is Rashi in a later verse that will tell us on another obscure verse. He will give us the answers to these two questions. You will see in a moment. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. But if you look
without Rashi, we wouldn't have any questions right now. He's telling God, let's choose someone else, and God says, no, I chose you, you're my favorite. Good, okay, that's an answer. But he didn't just say choose someone else. Rashi is the one that tells us what Moshe's real question was. It wasn't just about choose someone else. It was about choose someone else who deserves it more than me, my older brother. Oh, that's a legitimate question. And seemingly the verse does not answer this. The Torah, God does not answer Moshe's question. And the same thing with Mashiach. A logical question. Why are you going through this whole exercise of making me go to take the Jewish people out of Egypt? When I know for a fact that it's only going to last till the Babylonians throw them out of Israel. And even that redemption, the second temple, will only last till the Romans throw them out. Why, God? Please just send Mashiach. Why are you wasting everyone's time? That's a good question, a valid question. And again, we don't find the answer to that.
Not in that verse, but
Nowhere.
later.
Nowhere. We don't find it anywhere in the text. Where does God answer him the answer that the older brother deserves it more? He's right. The older brother does deserve it more.
Well, if you take history, it haven't happened like that.
What?
Adam, Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
And God accepted Abel's
sacrifice. We know why. Over there we know why. But over there we know why.
And it's continually like
no, but we know there was a reason every time. Over here there's no reason.
But continuously.
But there was always a reason. Esau was a terrible person, of course.
Ishmael and Isaac.
You listen to my answer. Over there was always a reason why he chose the younger over the older.
There's a reason with Moses.
No, there isn't.
I tell you.
Well, you tell me. The Torah doesn't. What is it?
He grew up in the Egypt leadership.
Yeah.
So he know as living with the Egyptian inside their house, inside Pharaoh's house, he will know best how to deal with them. And Mashiach.
You know what?
And Mashiach.
If that's the answer, then
I
tell us. Why you had to tell it to us? Why he asked a question? He deserves an answer for Christ.
Mashiach. Who thought then about Mashiach?
Moshe did. Rashi tells us that Moshe did. Rashi tells us that Moshe did.
Yeah, because
yeah. So what's going on there? So Rashi answers these two questions in a later comment. Listen to this. This is very interesting. We find over here that right afterwards, Moses goes to his father-in-law, asks permission to leave, to go back to Egypt, to bring the Jewish people the message of redemption. Moshe Yisroel agrees, and he says, go in peace. And God assures Moses, he says, don't worry about going back to Egypt. All those that want to kill you have died. You have nothing to worry about. What's the next verse? I'm going to read this to you. Moshe took his wife and his sons, mounted them upon the donkey, and he returned to the land of Egypt. And Moshe took the staff of God in his hand, and so on and so forth, and he went further.
The staff was sapphire, right?
The staff of God, yeah. The staff that he did all the miracles with him. Okay.
And that was the original donkey from Abraham.
Wait a second. Any questions? When you read this verse, you have a question? Is there any question that Rashi has to address here?
Why did he bring his wife and kids?
Well, what do you want him to do? Leave them behind the Midian? That's not a question. Rashi comes over here and says, he says that he rode them on the donkey, and he says this is the donkey that Abraham saddled many years earlier, and this is the donkey that Mashiach is going to saddle many years later. Listen to me.
It's an old donkey.
Why in the world is Rashi even telling this to us? What is bothering him? Rashi has a rule. Rashi has a rule that you don't comment if there's nothing wrong with the verse. The only reason he makes a comment if there's a problem in the verse. When you read the text, there's something that bothers us, he comes to answer that question. But if there's no question, he doesn't make a comment. What question is there on this verse that he has coming now to answer with this story with Abraham with the donkey and Mashiach with the donkey and the whole thing? Commentators explain that Rashi is bothered by the following statement, by the following problem. The verse tells us, what's the verse trying to tell us? That Moshe went to Egypt, right? He should have said he took his wife and his kids and went to Egypt. Why does it have to tell us that he went to Egypt riding on a donkey? Why is that detail important? Why is the Torah even bother to tell us how he got there? He took the train. He took a bus. He took a donkey. Who cares? He went there. That's it. Why is it important how he got there?
That's the vision of the Messiah.
1 second.
A white donkey.
No, but I'm asking, what's the importance of the Torah telling us how Moshe went to Egypt?
It's the same donkey.
And therefore, don't tell us anything how he got there. It's not important how he got there. The storyline is interrupted here. The storyline is that God told him, go get the Jews out of Egypt, and Moshe went. He tried to get out of the mission, but it didn't work. God said, you're going, and he went. He went with a Cadillac. Well, what's to tell us how he went? What's the importance of this? He went with a donkey. And if he went with a horse, it would be. What's the Torah trying to tell us with the fact that he went with the donkey? Who cares how he went? That's what bothers Rashi. Why is the Torah telling us this detail? This detail seems superfluous. So Rashi says it's not so superfluous. There's a reason the Torah is telling us this detail about the donkey. And by the way, it doesn't just say he went with a donkey, it says he went with the donkey. It's as if we're talking about some famous donkey. So Rashi says, wait a minute, this begs for explanation. And he says, therefore, yes, indeed, the Torah is telling us here that he went with a famous donkey. Which was this famous donkey? The donkey that Abraham once traveled 400 years earlier. And that's the same donkey that Mashiach is going to be traveling on when he comes to redeem the Jewish people in 57-73.
God
It's an old donkey.
This year.
With a long beard.
What Rashi is really doing over here, he is answering the two questions we asked before. What did we ask before? How is it that the Torah, that Moshe asks God a question and he doesn't answer it? He asked him two questions. Why are you sending me and not my older brother? He deserves it. And the second interpretation was, he said, why are you sending me and not wasting time with a repeat of this redemption if you just send Mashiach and bring to do one redemption instead of 3, 4? And we don't have an answer. Rashi says there's an answer. This is the answer. With these words that he wrote his wife in the Torah tells us that he took them to Egypt riding on a donkey. With this, he answers both of those questions. How so? In the following way. What do you ask? You should have Abraham. You should have Aaron. Why should you have Aaron? Very simple. He's my older brother. He's going to be offended if I'm the one, if I'm chosen over him. So God tells him, what does God tell him? Moshe, you ask him too many questions. Let me tell you a story God told him. There was a Yid once, his name was Abraham. And I told him to take his son Isaac to be slaughtered on a mountain. And he woke up early in the morning and he saddled a donkey. And he was not, over there was a bigger worry than offending someone. Over there was more than just offending someone, it was about killing someone. He was told to slaughter his son. And nevertheless, he just didn't ask questions. He went, he followed my orders, he understood that I know what I'm doing. So you're bothered by the fact that you're going to have to offend someone. So let me tell you, you should learn from Avram. Avram, when I told him not to just offend someone, but to kill someone, he didn't ask. You got on this donkey and he went. That's what the Torah is telling us over here. With these extra words, he rode them on the donkey. That was God hinting to Moshe, you worried about offending someone? Look at my old good boy, Avram. He wasn't worried about any of this. When he heard a command from me, he did it. So do me a favor and listen. Follow what I'm telling you and don't ask so many questions. And regarding the second interpretation of Rashi, that what? That he asked it should be a one-time redemption, not for redemption. I'm going to take them out, they'll go back into jail, back into exile, and then a second redemption, a third, and a fourth. Just do it once. Send Mashiach. So what does God answer him? Vayarkivim alachim meir, he took them on the donkey. Which donkey? The donkey of Mashiach. What he was telling him is, Moshe, you're making a mistake if you think that this is not the beginning of Mashiach. Your redemption that you will now accomplish in Egypt is the beginning of a long process that begins with the exodus from Egypt and ends with the coming of Mashiach. It's one long story. It's not 4 different redemptions, it's 4 parts of one redemption.
That was the beginning.
One second.
Oh.
What is the coming of Mashiach? The coming of Mashiach transformed the world. Is going to transform the world completely, as we learn in Tanya. That is going to it's going to make Hashem one with the Jewish people and the whole world. Reveal godliness on earth. What happened in the redemption from Egypt? There was already a total transformation at that redemption. What was the transformation? The transformation was within the Jewish people themselves. At the redemption from Egypt and the giving of the Torah, this redemption that was accomplished through Moshe, who rode that donkey of Mashiach, began the total transformation of the Jewish people. How so? We're told that with the redemption from Egypt, the Jewish people were forever a redeemed people. They can never really go back into exile for real. They are never subject to the nations ever again. They will try to annihilate them. They will try to destroy them. They will never succeed. Never, ever. It is impossible for the Jewish people to be subject entirely to the nations. They've been changed into a godly people forever and ever. Just like God can be annihilated, never ceases to exist, the Jewish people also never cease to exist. That began at Mount Sinai, at the redemption of Egypt. So that God was telling Moshe with these few words, "Vayarkivim alachamer," with the words he wrote them on the donkey. The Torah is telling us this was God's answer to those 2 questions. Number 1, you're worried about defending someone. Avram wasn't so worried. Learn from Avram. And don't worry, he's going to be happy about it anyway, he told him. On the side, he told him, your brother Aaron will be fine. He's not going to be offended. He ended up telling him that later. But before he told him he's not going to be offended, he told him, enough questions, just accept. Like Avram. And then the second question about Mashiach, he says, no, you're making a mistake, Moshe. They're not going out of exile only to go back into exile, to go out and to go out, in. They're going out never to go back in again. But we have a process. This is one stage in this process. You're part of the redemption of Mashiach. Stage number one. The beginning was the transformation of the Jewish people as slaves. They're never going to become slaves again. And they will never be subject to any forces of nature again. God is their guide, and God is their say. That God, they're forever and ever a people that will be on earth, because they are now going to begin the process of bringing God down to earth, which is ultimately going to be revealed when Mashiach comes. So this is a long story, a old donkey. That's why maybe it's taking so long, schlepping along.
So where is that donkey today?
Whether this means a physical donkey that's so many thousands of years old, or a conceptual donkey, I think a conceptual idea. You started the process, and the Mashiach is going to end.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It's the same idea. The same donkey means the same exodus. At a different occasion, I explained why all this was manifest through a donkey. A donkey. Which we won't get into tonight. It's a whole different subject. Why all this was hinted through a donkey? Okay, this is a different question. It deserves a different answer. And I once gave a class on that itself. The 3 stages of the donkey and the transformation of the coarseness, which chamer means coarseness, which is a different, as I said, that we'll leave that for a different time. You'll go back to probably one of our webcasts that's in there. So that's the story of Moshe at the burning bush, and that ends next week's portion with the actual redemption. In the interim, we have the 10 plagues. This week we have 7 of the 10 plagues. It's a long, beautiful story. And Moshe takes on and that's why he was convinced. He realized that this mission is real. This is not a futile experience. This is not a futile exercise. Thank you very much, and have a good night.